How you guys doing today? I'm doing pretty good. I know, right? I actually found a giant comical lollipop. We sell these at the Dollar Tree I work at. We've been selling these for years, and it's like something right out of a cartoon. It actually synced up rather well because we're talking about S-Class Rank 5 Child Emperor today. You know, I always like my job when I go out and I have to buy stuff like this, you know, and today it was especially upsetting because I go into the store, I buy a soccer ball, a Rubik's Cube, some Cap'n Crunch, and I'm legitimately feeling nostalgic for my childhood. I'm like, man, I remember when I used to play soccer and read Captain Underpants and eat Cap'n Crunch and watch cartoons on Saturday mornings. Man, this sucks. But anyway, yeah, so, he is the obligatory child character in the group. This isn't with, like, every single group in anime, but if you've always noticed, whenever you have, like, a large group in some shonen anime, you're always gonna have, like, a few of the characters that are kinda like, they don't look very strong, just based on appearances, you know? There might be, like, a little tiny character or something like that. I know this happens in Fairy Tail quite often, but, it happens in others as well. In, the Hero Association, in the S-Class, you would look at them, and probably the one that you would single out at being, well, probably the two that you would single out at just by physical appearances at not being very strong would probably be Tatsumaki and Child Emperor. Now, we already know about Tatsumaki and how terrifying she could be. But when it comes to Child Emperor, what's the story with him? Because with Tatsumaki, she just looks tiny. She's actually 28 years old. She's an adult. Child Emperor is 10. A 10-year-old that is the 5th highest ranked hero in all of S-Class. You know, he's right between the freaking badass samurai and the scientist capable of creating at-walkers and mechanized soldiers capable of launching missiles, blowing up skyscrapers and shit. Like, okay, what's the story with this kid, right? Well, he's a boy genius. I think you could probably figure that immediately. It's not like he, you know, actually fights the monsters on his own, although he does have physical capabilities. You would think that, like, oh, he's a 10-year-old kid, he's not physically strong, just any ordinary adult would be able to beat him. No, in a one-on-one fight, he would definitely kick the shit out of any sort of, like, normal human being. Like, even in that regard, King is still the weakest, because if it was just Child Emperor without any of his, without his tactical backpack or any of his inventions, if it was just a straight-up brawl between Child Emperor and King, Child Emperor would still win, alright? He does have an ability called Soccer Dribble, where he jumps on top of a monster and just lands concussive hits against their skull, which stated could cause concussions, you know? So he does train physically, it's just that he's, you know, 10. So if anything, he's going to get stronger in the future. But yeah, his primary abilities is, of course, his genius-level intellect. So Child Emperor was originally the assistant to Metal Knight. Metal Knight is, of course, the genius scientist in the entire Hero Association. Child Emperor is pretty smart as well, but when they need something built, or, like, he has the resources, I guess to say. I mean, he can build, like, giant robos and everything, like, the size of cities. He can rebuild cities. So if you need something done, you're gonna go to Metal Knight. But Child Emperor is a close second. Their relationship, we don't exactly know how that worked, if he was just, you know, he's related to Metal Knight in some way, to Beaufoy, the professor, or if he was like a clone of him or something. We just know they used to work together, and then at some point, Child Emperor just kind of split off and did his own thing. Now, they're both S-Class heroes, but there's differences between how they behave in the Hero Association. Metal Knight seems very reserved, doesn't seem to be getting involved very often, doesn't show up to meetings, just kind of stays sequestered in his lab, and whenever he gets a request from the Hero Association, he will do it, but he obviously has other motives. It seems that Child Emperor behaves very well with the Hero Association. He's much more easier to work with, so whenever they need something done, like right now, like reliably, like, hey, we need to find the location of this monster association, they go to Child Emperor. He has a laboratory in Y City, so he can usually be found there, just chilling out, and, you know, he has, you know, all the computers and everything. He can create these drones. He has, like, a battle drone called Underdog Man, and apparently there's at least 22 different versions of that, you know, and then he also has, in the last chapter, he displayed another thing called a subterranean digger called the Doggy Digger, which he was using to try to find the location of the Monster Association. All of these things are obviously modeled after Watchdog Man. Watchdog Man is a very popular hero in the association with children, so I guess Child Emperor is no different. He also is a big fan of Watchdog Man. That's why he makes a lot of his robots and drones bones and stuff out of based on his likeness. Now, a few mysterious things when it comes to Child Emperors. So the first thing was brought up in a extra chapter that we got to see called Numbers. This was the chapter where Child Emperor creates basically a scouter from Dragon Ball Z. He names it Okame-chan, and when he puts on the mask, he basically works as like a scanner to determine power levels, okay? So he first scans the base power of a C-class hero, Red Muffler, and that was 100. Okay, so using that as a baseline, we also see like an average worker for the Hero Association. He's only level 22, so he's like, you know, much weaker than just the standard C-class. I think a bear, like just an ordinary like grizzly bear, was ranked like 900 something. The B-class hero Darkness Blade was like 700. A-class hero Great Philosopher was like over 2,000 because he's like this super muscular dude. Okame-chan basically just measures in terms of physical strength. You know, it can't measure cyborgs or mechanical devices all too well. Fubuki got a really low score. I think she only got a 19 because it can't factor in psychic abilities. In case you're curious, it broke when he tried to scan Saitama. If the number is over 9,999, it cannot be measured. Therefore, with Saitama, it breaks. And likewise, if the number is lower than 0 or lower than 1 compared to like a 100 base C class, then it won't function as well. So when he tried to scan King and Saitama, it both they failed for different reasons, and it was because King was too weak and Saitama was too strong, but because Child Emperor, I guess he's not a genius enough to figure out, you know, what's going on there with their relationship. But the weird thing about that chapter is that Child Emperor was also scanned by Okame-chan, and his comes out to 1,880. Now, like I said, it measures mostly physical ability. So he really is that strong, okay? He's not as strong as the Great Philosopher super buff A-class hero, but he's certainly strong for a 10-year-old kid in comparison. You know, also considering that the average human adult was a 22, and the average C-class hero was 100, that would make Child Emperor, like, over, you know, 20 times stronger than an average adult. Okay, wow, I am really not good at math because I just double-checked the numbers, and if a normal adult male is 22 and Child Emperor is 1,880, that's closer to like 80 times stronger than 20 times, so I basically just pulled that number out of my ass just to keep the video going, so yeah. The point is, Child Emperor is like stronger than Stinger, who was 1,600, stronger than like 2 grizzly bears, which would be only like 1,800. So yeah, kid's pretty physically strong. Don't take his lunch money. He'll beat the shit out of you. And to keep in mind, that soccer dribble thing he did, you know, that seems like a rather basic technique. Like, he just, you know, runs up to the opponent, kicks him a bunch of times in the head, and causes a concussion. You know, there's other techniques like Super Alloy Bazooka, or Tatsumaki Psychic, or Atomic Slash. All of those techniques seem a lot more impressive, but when you consider he used that technique against monster-fied Garo after his second or third transformation, dude is freaking courageous. Child Emperor is, in order to do that. Oh, or, you know, he's a child, so maybe he doesn't think much about death because he's so young. You know, he's very fearless, and that's why he went in and tried to do it, and he thought it was gonna work. He's like, even if that didn't injure you on the outside, it definitely gave you a concussion, and he just gets knocked back by Garo. Also, in that Numbers chapter, they fight against a giant spider monster, and that spider monster hits Child Emperor almost head-on. He uses his backpack to block it, and he gets knocked away, and then he comes back later. He's all geared up with his, like, robotic spider legs coming out of his backpack, and he's like, let me show you why I'm S-class, you know, spider. And he doesn't really get it. You think we're going to get a really cool moment where he's going to show his stuff and fight against a monster, but we don't get it because Saitama already finished him off at that point, who he mistook for, you know, King taking him out. So, unfortunately, we didn't get to see that. In the webcomic, we did see him fight. He shows up in the Monster Association and first fights against Phoenix Man, the indestructible Monster King Phoenix Man. And of course, his reaction to that is like, "Oh, you're just a little boy. Did you wander in here? Ha ha, I'm a chicken. Waka waka." And Child Emperor proceeds. He doesn't even really, his expression doesn't really change. He just takes the lollipop, puts it in his mouth, like, I don't really know how he fits a giant lollipop like this in his mouth, but he does that, and he's like, Okay, and then he triggers his tactical backpack, and all of this shit comes out of it. You got, like, 2 pairs of hedge clippers, a bunch of robotic hands, a fucking drill, 2 scythe blades, a fork, that looks like a giant, like, Oni mace, a hammer, a boxing glove, you know, all these pointy objects, and then he proceeds to just slice and dice up Phoenix Man, and doesn't even react. He just, like, presses a button on his backpack, just like, oh, you're the first monster I'm fighting here. Like, okay, hold on a second. Let me just, collect. And then, okay, we're good here. And then it just all goes back. And it's the magical tactical backpack that contains his computer so he can work out calculations, jet boosters so he can fly, the robotic spider legs, all of these freaking weapons, pretty much anything that you could expect he manages to, you know, cram in there somewhere. Probably some treats. I think there was a moment where he was fighting against evil natural water, and he was like, my sugar's running low, so I guess that would make him hypoglycemic, I guess, you know, whatever. Yeah, this is, by the way, my tactical backpack. This backpack has been with me since freshman year of high school all the way up through my senior year of college. This thing has been with me thick and thin. Every single awkward moment of my life, this backpack has witnessed it with me. You notice it is still with me. Okay. But, yeah, so, in the Monster Association, after getting beat down by evil natural water, Child Emperor perceives this to be, like, one of the strongest threats that the Monster Association has, this amorphous, you know, water elemental thing, and he starts working on calculations in order to defeat it, and he tries to help out a My Mask with it, faces off against Garo very briefly there. He's a child, so doesn't really have much of a, I mean, he is physically strong, but nothing that he can really do in this fight. He tries to run support, you know, with his genius intellect and come up with a plan like, King, you have to take it out by using your, you know, wave motion death cannon thing. I also mentioned this in Drive Knight's video, but Drive Knight, nearing the end of the battle, approached Child Emperor specifically and told him, I think I'm gonna get going, and Child Emperor's like, oh yeah, it's cool, you know, you've, it's looking like quieting down here, so you can get going. So there might be some relationship between Drive Knight and Child Emperor. That made me think maybe Child Emperor built Drive Knight, and he became like this autonomous, you know, android or something like that, or they might have some other kind of relationship together. If Drive Knight is a cyborg, maybe Child Emperor did the modifications on him. Oh, and by the way, this is something really messed up, and I debated whether even to mention this, but it is so freaking weird and really freaking creepy. Okay, so the way that you would say Child Emperor's name in, Japanese would be Dote. Alright, that's how it's said in Japanese, Dote. Dote is also a homophone in Japanese. What's it a homophone of? And you know, homophone is like a word that is pronounced the exact same way, but it might be spelled differently and have a different meaning, like rose. Rose can mean like the flower, it can also mean the past tense of rise, like the zombie rose from its grave, you know? So Dote, on top of meaning Child Emperor, is also a homophone for a male virgin. I am so not making this up, and it can also mean none, but the most common used of that word, dote, is a virgin, specifically a male virgin. And the reason this is really creepy is because Child Emperor didn't choose this name. The Hero Association gives you your name. You know, Genos was named Demon Cyborg. He didn't have a say in that nickname. And, you know, Saitama certainly did, and, you know, Caped Baldy, you know, he didn't have any input on that matter. So the Hero Association had to get together and be like, what's this child genius's name gonna be? Let's see here. How about, we go with Virgin? Well, he's 10, so I guess he would be, but that's pretty fucked up. It's like, yeah, it's funny, though. Let's just name him that. That's weird. Now look, like, if you call an adult a virgin, like, if you were, like, if I was gonna become a superhero, and you were gonna name me, like, Virgin Man, you know, like, okay, well, it's true. I think if you didn't know that, you could probably use deductive reasoning, but it would be funny. It would be like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it, I'm a virgin, ha ha ha, so funny. When it's used as to describe a 10-year-old kid, that's like, well, Obviously, right? That's just weird, but okay, that's whatever, alright. But on top of that, being a virgin and all, he's also extremely popular within the Hero Association, and the reason for this, I think, is pretty obvious. A lot of the, popularity from heroes comes from little kids, because little kids get really excited, they're actual superheroes in this world, and little kids want to grow up to become heroes as well and join the association, and so it's like, that's why Watchdog Man is so popular, kids are excited about superheroes being a thing. And Child Emperor is he's a kid as well. So for a little boy who's like, 10 years old, they can look at Child Emperor and say, he's the same age as me. He's one of the highest ranked heroes in the entire organization. He's S-class rank 5. So I could be a hero too, and I think that's where a lot of the support comes from, people, kids growing up wanting to follow in the footsteps of a great hero in the world, and to carry on their legacy, and maybe even surpass them in some way. I think that's something that's very popular in the world. Bakugo does not want to stay up. Let's see if we can use a Rubik's Cube to balance him out. There we go. Why am I using Bakugo? Shut up, that's why. You don't argue with Bakugo! This thing's a ticking time bomb, like, seriously. Yeah, okay. But yeah, so during the Monster Association invasion, when they had Taro, that little kid there, he was watching Child Emperor, and he was like, he's the same age as me, and yet he's a hero, and he's so popular, and he's so powerful, I want to be just like him. Of course, this image was kind of shattered because, a bunch of S-class heroes got wrecked in that fight. But yeah, he's extremely popular within the association. In terms of his stats, he doesn't have the highest in the association. He only has a grand total of 56, but in terms of his endurance, it's only a 3, and even with the 3, he was still able to, take a hit from that spider creature, get knocked back by monster-fied Garo, and he doesn't die or doesn't get any serious injuries or anything like that. So even with an endurance rank 3, I guess that's pretty good. Obviously, intelligence is the highest one there. His sense of justice is very high, but he lags behind in terms of, like, physical stamina, endurance, and strength, and obviously prevails when he, utilizes his genius-level intellect to fight against, monsters and the such. Don't really know what's going on with him right now in the story. After the whole monster invasion thing, I'm sure he's okay and recovering. We just don't really know. In terms of the Murata comic right now, he's gearing up to invade the Monster Association. He had a brief discussion with Metal Knight about all this. Like, Metal Knight, you need to come with us, and you need to help us, rescue these kids and everything. You'd be a great, help here. And Metal Knight disagrees and instead tells Child Emperor to be like, be wary of the people around you. And he actually takes this to heart when considering who to let on the Monster Invasion attack team. He's like, make sure to leave out Genos because he's a new recruit. We don't know if he might be a traitor or not. So he's being, he's being rational here. He's thinking about, like, all the stuff that the Monster Association did to us. They managed to infiltrate and everything. That's kind of weird. So there might be a traitor in our midst. So, we're wary of Genos. He only joined the Hero Association a month ago. So we got to be very careful and cautious about who we recruit around here. And also, he leaves Bang out as well, because Bang is a former teacher of Garo's, so that he might, feel soft for his disciple or something. So that's the situation where we're at right now in the Monster Association arc heading on in. So hopefully we'll see his fight with the Monster King Phoenix Man coming up pretty soon. That was one of the first fights in the arc. So we're probably going to see him in action sooner rather than later. So yeah, what do you think about Child Emperor? Leave a comment below on his intellect, his battle backpack, all the stuff he could do, everything like that, his relationship to Metal Knight and to Drive Knight, a lot of emperors and a lot of knights in the Hero Association. And next episode will be Metal Knight's video. I still think I'm going to do a Blast video, but in terms of just, like, the heroes, I actually have, like, a lot of stuff to say about, because Blast is such an unknown. That'll be Metal Knights, and that'll probably be the last one of that. And then after that, we're going to move on to some A-class heroes and some other notable heroes throughout the association. Also still got to do that Fubuki tit video at some point. Yep, I'm a man of my word. That's what I do. You guys remember Captain Underpants? I remember Captain Underpants. I also really enjoyed the Boxcar Children and the Magical Treehouse. I remember the Magical Treehouse. Oh, and the Series of Unfortunate Events books as well. Let me know what your favorite book series was growing up as a child. That's something we could talk about. All right. Well, I have this now, so I might as well read it. Have a great night, everybody. Tekking101 signing out.